It's important for us to realize that as scary as the times feel, and as in moments hopeless as the future looks, we've actually been here before. Not in the exact same situation, because history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And one of my favorite histories is Arthur Schlesinger's three-part series, The Age of Roosevelt. So it's about the crises that the nation faced as it ran up to the Great Depression. But I want to talk specifically about the Democratic Party itself. In the mid-1920s, Homer Cummings of Connecticut said, "We are really up against what might be called a ruling class proposition within the Democratic Party. That its connections with the media and with immense amounts of power in business meant that it was not a party that was representing working people." Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, also wrote about this, and this is one of my favorite quotes in this book. Roosevelt continued to emphasize in his incessant correspondence that the Democratic Party must make itself, by definite policy, the party of constructive progress before we can attract a larger following. Ever since 1920, he wrote in 1925, we have been doing nothing and waiting for the other fellow to put his foot in it. The other fellow had put his foot in it, Roosevelt continued, with the scandals and the tax plans that benefited the ultra-rich. But the Democrats could not even carry the Congress. The trouble lay in the fact that in the minds of the average voter, the Democratic Party today has no definite constructive aims. Now, when you hear that, when I hear that, that describes the party today. It describes a party that seems lost, that has no fundamental belief system. It doesn't know what it wants to do. And that is why, in the 1920s, it had no power. Much like today, the Democratic Party and the leadership in it have fundamentally forgotten how to build and wield power. But what came next after Roosevelt wrote those lines? Once the economy failed, once the pro-business legislation of the Republican Party sent this nation's economy into a downward spiral, it was his thoughts, his commitment to a constructive future, to constructive policies, that resulted in the most transformational moment in American history, the New Deal, and propelled him to 4 terms as President of the United States. And it was in that time that we redefined what the purpose of American government was. It was not merely to let business run rampant, it was to provide good lives to all people under its jurisdiction. In the words of Frances Perkins, FDR's Secretary of Labor and the first woman cabinet member in American history. It is of that thinking that we got Social Security. It was of that thinking that brought us unemployment insurance. It was of that thinking that brought us massive investment in infrastructure. And it is no coincidence that today, 80 to 90 years later, our infrastructure is crumbling. It's crumbling because much of it was built by public programs during the New Deal, by the CCC, by the WPA, programs that required massive amounts of public investment, but also massive amounts of political will. I say this because this is what we need to do next. We need to re-engage with that part of our history. And we need to understand that the fear and the uncertainty and the challenges that we have today, we have been here before as a nation. But the answer wasn't giving the rich more tax breaks. The answer wasn't allowing corporations to build more power and extract more wealth out of working people. And the answer wasn't staying divided, keeping working people at each other's throats. No, the answer was in building power. The answer was in realizing that only as a nation that works together, understanding it is in our communal activity. It is in our support of each other. It is in developing an economic system that's purpose is to elevate the lives of every American, not just the lucky few. That it is in that we find the answer to the challenges of today. Because when we look to the future, the challenges of climate change, the challenges of authoritarianism, the challenges of our food systems, the challenges of poverty, of healthcare, the answer to all of these is not giving up power to the rich and the powerful, but building power and re-engaging with the kind of politics that brought us the New Deal. I'm going to quote Franklin Roosevelt one more time. What this country needs is to get a little radical for a generation. I believe that firmly because it was that kind of thinking that saved us in the 1930s, and it's that kind of thinking that will save us now. Thank you all very much for watching. If this sounds like your kind of politics, if this sounds like something you want to support, I urge you to get involved. Donate, sign up to volunteer. If you're in Maine, sign up to knock doors. If you're not in Maine, sign up to phone bank or text bank for us. Or, and this is just as important, go find an organization in your community that is doing the work already. Go volunteer at a food bank. Join a union if you can. Find an organization focused on social justice or economic justice or mutual aid, because at the end of the day, it is only in that kind of organizing that we are going to find the capability to build the power necessary to fight for the future we all deserve.